Hello and welcome to today's video, and in this video we're going to create the key, finally, and this is the shape that I created there in the schematic, which you can download. There's a link in the description. So I figured I would start with a mesh circle, so just add that with Shift A or use the add-on if you have that. It's all available as a free and pro version, so find those links in the description. So there we've got our mesh circle, and I put it in the middle approximately of the schematic there in the background. So with that done, I'm going to convert that to a curve that's found under the object menu. Let's head over to but before we do that actually, let's tab into edit mode because it still looks like a mesh circle. So let's change the handle type, the spline type to Bezier, and then the handle type to, did I say them both? to automatic. And that gives us a much more smooth look. However, I mean, this is okay, but you can see it's not quite a perfect circle. So, yeah, I let my OCD get the better of me, so I thought I'd add an actual Bezier circle this time. Try that instead. Let's just leave that there. You can see we've only got 4 points here, and it's nicely rounded. So delete the mesh circle, and let's place the Bezier version in its place and apply the scale. And there it is there. So let's head over to the curve properties there. And under geometry, if we expand that, you've got the bevel value. Let's increase that and create a nice ring that Gollum will appreciate, of course. And let's just turn on the wireframe there. Overlays. Now, what we can do here is under the curve properties again, we can adjust the resolution of the ring that we have now. So let's turn down the resolution on the bevel so it's not too high, because we will be adding a subdivision modifier to this later on. So the less geometry we have, the easier it is to work with. And let's turn down the radius resolution as well. What you're looking for here is an edge loop at the 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock position. Effectively, you have a quarter. That's a complete component just there. So I think I'm going to go with 8. Okay, with that done, there's our Bezier circle. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate that, right click to snap it back in its place. And let's rename the original one to keyring 1. Of course, call it whatever you like. I'm going to copy that and paste it there. So now I've got a copy. I'm just going to drag that into my backups collection. Just in case this goes pear-shaped, and I can just bring that back. Let's copy that again and move it to the second ring. Something like that is good. And now I'm going to flip it horizontally, but I want to make sure the origin point is in the center of that first ring. So that top right menu there, you can affect the origins only and use vertex snapping to put it to that point there. With that done, we can Shift D to duplicate it, and you can rotate that in the Z axis. Hold down Control for 5-degree increments, of course. And there we go, a nicely symmetrical 3-ring shape. Let's apply the rotation on these as well. If you don't have the add-on, just head over to Gumroad to pick that up as a free version. And you can also just hit Control A and apply the transforms that way as well. Let's just quickly rename these rings to 1, 2, and 3. Make copies again, and I'm going to drop those into my backups collection. Okay, now we need to figure out how we're going to do this. Now you could leave it like this and just call it a day and just put in a flat shape, right, in between all those gaps there. But I thought I'd try and make it one complete mesh. So I've converted all of these curves into meshes under the object menu. So you can see there, these are all now mesh objects. Okay, yes, let's combine everything with a Boolean modifier. So I'm going to select the first object and then use the add-on just to do that. Set it to union, and there we go, we've got those two connected now. We've got some glitches, of course, that's perfectly natural. But we have to turn off the third ring, because that's no longer needed technically. Oh, that is the third ring. Yeah, let's put that into the backups as well. Why not? Here's the original ring. Now we need to connect these guys, union that as well with that ring as well, the first ring. Now we have one mesh effectively, and it looks horrible. I know, bear with, and we'll have to tidy this up. And of course, apply the Boolean modifier so that we can actually start editing this. So head over to the modifiers and apply that there. Now we have a bit of work to do. So, strap your belt in and knuckle down. Just work through this as best you can. And of course, at some point, we're going to use the mirror modifier. You just saw there that I used the merge vertices by distance, and that deleted or removed 88 vertices. So we're going to try that again. Just change the tolerance a little bit and see what happens. That actually merged 120 vertices this time. Okay. You can see there we've got these really weird polygons and overlapping geometry. So if you spot that, just delete them and recreate where possible. Now, clearly that's not working at the moment, so I'm going to try and figure out. See that edge there? Doesn't make any sense, so let's delete that. Yeah, and these edges look okay. They kind of make sense, right? Let's fill these by pressing the F key. So you can select some edges there, holding down Shift, and press the F key. Just like that. And that's only part way. We've got so much work to do here. This is where most of the time is going to be spent just tidying up the Boolean operation. And that is not ideal just yet. We've still got some staggered joins there. And likewise on this side, it's the same thing, of course. So we're not going to worry about that. Because like I said, we're going to use a mirror modifier. So maybe we can do that now. Let's try and select half of the object. Just like that there. And let's delete those vertices. You can also delete the back half as well, as I've just written there, because the front and the back will be exactly the same. So you can do that now, do it later, up to you, and add a mirror modifier. I'm just going to crack on and try and tidy up as much as I can here for now, and we'll come back and refine it a little bit more later on. So it is a staged process. So initially you're just basically tidying up all the rubbish that's in there, like these large faces there that overlap and are underneath each other. Once you've done that, you can go back and make this a lot more efficient as a shape. I'm not going to speed through this as much as I would in some other parts of the video because I want to show you how I did this. And so if you do the same thing, you're not going to have to pause the video or slow it down too much in the video playback. I'll play it as much as real time as possible and fast forward when I need to. So just navigate around and just find these areas that you can patch the holes up really. So still very messy, but that's a good start. Obviously the back, don't worry about the back, we can come back to this later. Or now, there we go. I'm going to put a modifier on this one now. So let's select the back faces or the vertices just on that right side there. And let's press the delete key. So make sure you have nothing else selected there, because it is a bit of a dirty mesh at the moment. So yeah, that looks like the first half there, the front half. Now we can add a mirror modifier, just like that. And we can do the X and the Y axis and turn clipping on, of course. And that's looking pretty good. It's clean, right? Still very low resolution, which is fine. Let's add a subdivision modifier. I'll add it through the add-on, just so you can see that working. And now we have this. Again, doesn't look too bad. Let's turn that down to 1 level. And disable the subdivision modifier for now. Let's turn wireframe overlay on. That will really help us see what's going on and where the issues are. I'm going to isolate that with the question mark / key on the keyboard. Let's turn off all the modifiers as we tidy this up, apart from the mirror. I can't make my mind up, can I? Right, now we can start merging vertices. So select one and then a target vertex like that. Press the M key and merge at last. And we've got some quirky stuff going on there, but don't worry about it for now. Let's just go. This is stage 2 of the tidy up process. It's very easy to miss stuff actually. I've always spotted like the odd vertex here and there that I didn't spot as I was going through these. You can see just under there in that recessed corner, there's a vertex right in the middle, just sitting there. That one there we go. So you can just merge that as well, or dissolve it. So make sure you do take your time at this stage, and make sure you tidy up as best you can. And that one there, I just pressed Ctrl Delete to dissolve that. You can also slide these vertices, of course. You don't have to merge everything, you can slide them along if you need to retain the vertex. That's a good example right there, which I'll demonstrate later on anyway. Let's focus in at this area here. Let's merge these as well. These we don't need, they're way too small on both sides. Let's get over that and just merge that there. We've got some weird stuff going on here, so let's delete that vertex there, or dissolve it I should say, with Ctrl Delete. Change into wireframe or X-ray mode does help you see if there's anything hiding behind these faces. So look, so far looking not too bad. So here we go, I'm selecting this vertex and pressing GG. So press the G key twice and that will enable you to slide that along existing edges, just to straighten those edges out there. There's one right there, we can do the same again. So click the vertex, press GG and slide it along the existing edge. So as you can see, this is not difficult work really. Yes, it's tedious, granted, but it doesn't really take that long once you get into the swing of it. It's pretty quick. Unlike this video, sorry about that. Yeah, there we go, there's some more weird ones there. Let's merge that there. And we probably don't need these ones as well, but we'll come back to this a bit later on. So inspect your model as I'm doing here. Turn off any modifiers. Turn them back on again to check your progress as you go along. And look for any really serious glitches and go back and refine it again. You can see here, I haven't done this part yet, so let's do that. Merge these. Whoops, let's just get that into view by pressing the period key on the numpad. Let's merge these or dissolve them with Ctrl Delete. Yeah, let's put that one right there, I think. That creates a nice continuous flow there. Let's get rid of that one. So while this is going on in the background, I have to apologise. I've been a little bit late getting these videos out, and there's a good reason for that. As you know, I've got the add-on there on the right. You can see BB Toolkit Pro, and as I said, there's a free version as well. However, I've been spending a lot of time building some materials and models actually for the next update of the add-on, and that's going to be a huge update. So it does take a lot of time for me. It takes a lot of energy to think about how to do that and generate all the lovely things that I need to add to the add-on. So the biggest thing and the big feature coming basically is models and materials. So of course I need to have some models and materials to put into the add-on. So that's what I've been working on in between my my full-time job as well, and also trying to make a video and record this audio as well, and work on the add-on and several other things. So always busy. So when you don't see a video for a week or so, don't panic. I'm still doing stuff in the background. I just don't have as much free time as I'd like at the moment. So do bear with me. Good things are coming. As you can see, I'm just still going through the same process, step by step, cleaning up the geometry and eliminating any potential areas there, problem areas. You can see that I've used the knife tool to add a better loop there and toggled the subdivision modifier to see how that behaves. You can turn cavity off, which I like to have, as it really helps to visualize the 3D in the viewport. So I turn that back on there. You can see how much nicer that is to see how things are working. Let's turn the subdiv back off again. So we're getting there. And don't worry about if you have triangles, it's not a problem. We'll just subdivide everything as one piece anyway. So I'm thinking at this point, do I really need this edge loop? So I'm going to get rid of it by selecting the edge loop and pressing GG to slide it into that corner. So I'm going to do the merge vertex there. Now, of course, if I slid the where I've slid the edge loop there, all those vertices are overlapping. So I've just merged those there and removed 5 of them. So now we have just one vertex for that junction there. Good practice, just select everything and do merge vertices once in a while in case you forget, just to make sure you haven't missed anything. So let's go back to maybe do the same here as well. So you might think there's method to my madness, but there kind of is, but at the same time I was making this up as I went along. So I thought, well, where these rings meet, it would be nice to have a cross junction, like an X. That way I can put a bevel into it and tighten up the where all the rings meet. So to do that, I need to merge all these into simple edge loops and an X shape. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So it came to me as I was doing that. I thought, let's try that and see if it works. So let's take these and GG to slide them into that corner. And once again, tab into wireframe or X-ray mode, select everything there and merge vertices by distance. And we got rid of 3 there. Just to test that. There we go. That works fine. Let's turn our attention to this part now. Let's start merging these as well. So GG and slam dunk that into the corner. And do the same for these. GG and drag right in there. And let's merge vertices. And we now remove another 6. I missed one there. Go back. There's one right in the middle. There it is. Thank you. That would drive me nuts if I missed that. Now we have the X going on there in that junction as well. We've got it going on there as well. Let's just check. We haven't missed anything. That looks pretty good. Let's check our subdiv. That looks as expected. So now, having done all that, let's tab into edit mode. Let's turn off the modifiers once more. I'm going to select these edge loops. So Alt click and then Shift Alt click to make multiple selections. Make sure you have those selected. Just orbit around. Make sure you have everything that you need to do the operation on. And then press Ctrl B and just bring that out and add 2 segments. Now there might be danger of overlapping, as you can see in the top right there. They're colliding with existing geometry there. So you have clamp overlap in the options in the operator panel just there. We're not going to worry about that just for now. So let's commit with that. Let's go with that and see how that looks now. Turn the wireframe off. And that's looking better. We've got some nice clean junctions there where all the rings meet. We've still got a bit more work to do because we have the mirror modifier. And we can't do that yet because we need to apply the mirror modifier before we can do the other cross junctions, if you like, where those rings meet. So we can go back to this one now that we have proper geometry realized with the modifier. Applied and select these. Whoops, that one there. And we can do the same. Ctrl B. Make sure you have everything. Double check front and back. And Ctrl B and just bring that out. give or take as big as the other one. It's actually too small, but hey, never mind. Shape 0.5, 0.1 is not, we don't want 0.1 for this one. Sorry, 1, we just want 0.5. That's good, that's good, I should say. Yes, the inner flat parts. Wow, this was more difficult than I thought it would be. Again, not difficult per se, just tedious. So let's turn off the subdiv modifier. And what I thought I'd do is, yeah, my goal was to keep it all in one shape. That's a challenge I set myself. So I thought I'd select this edge loop that runs on the inside across all of these gaps. So Alt-click and then Shift-Alt-click. Select all of the edge loops running along the middle of the rings. And I thought a good way to try this would be to bevel that now with one segment, not two. So Control B. Yes, make a backup first because this is quite destructive. So make a backup and tuck it away somewhere safe. Tap back into edit mode. And as it says there, Control B to add a bevel modifier and scroll your wheel to just have the one segment. So effectively, that's going to be the thickness of your plate between the rings. So with that done, that looks pretty good. Make sure you've done everything you need to do, and then press delete and delete the faces. So that leaves a nice gap for us to build on. Alt-click this edge loop and press F to fill. You could do the back as well, or you could just, again, create a mirror modifier to do this. But that's what I'm going for now. And of course, that doesn't quite work yet. We've got a bit more tidying up to do. So I'm going to select the face just there. Yep, check face orientation as well, very important. Let's select that, these faces there. I'm going to press I to inset. And of course, you can only go so far before it collapses in on itself. So that doesn't look good. So let's try using the circle operation with loop tools. And that didn't work at all. Don't know what the heck is going on there. So I'm just going to probably undo that. So I'm just trying to see what happens here if I change some of these options down there. Maybe one will save me a lot of time. We'll see. Unfortunately, I've not been so lucky this time. So, yeah, that's not... In fact, I can't even see anything. So I'm going to undo that. Back to these filled n-gons. So I'm going to press the I key and give it a very small inset. And just think about that. Let's delete the back one. We don't need to work on both of them. We just need the one for now. So I'm going to do a selection on the one n-gon there. Press the I key and bring it in just so far. Not too far out in, so that it collapses on itself. Now it is messy there. It's collapsed into itself a little bit. But that's okay. We can fix that. It's not the end of the world. We just need to scale these out as a group. And you can see there what that looks like now. So quite easy to just go in there now in the front view and move these around to fix that problem. So that's very quick to do. Do the same on the opposite side. Let's press S for scale, bring that out. Just click and drag these to put them in a better position. That will do. Something like that. Now we need this as a support loop, basically. That's why I'm doing this. So with that done for now, acting as a support loop later, let's try and create the hole. Now you can do this several ways, the Boolean and inset. As I tried before, let's try the inset and then try the loop tools again. However, I don't think I was going to try that because it didn't work the last time. So what I'm going to do this time is count how many vertices we have there. I'm going to add the 3D cursor to that selection. And I'm going to add a mesh circle with the same number of vertices as that N-gon there, which you saw just back there. Rewind the video by 10, 20, 15, 20 seconds to see how many vertices you can, where you can find that in the bottom right. And create a circle and place it approximately there. Well, there actually. And then delete the large N-gon. So now we have this hole with the large circle, or the circle anyway, in the same 2D plane. And select both of these now and bridge edge loops. Now I should have stressed this is in edit mode. You must add the circle in edit mode. Otherwise you can't bridge them if they're separate objects. So I'm going to check face orientation because that will always, or can potentially go wrong when you're doing these bridge edge loops or insets, insets extrusion, things like that. And I switched over to the madcap to see how that looks in terms of shading. We still have a bit of work to do. You can see we've got some weird shading issues going across there with these polygons, these faces there. Let's try and select these with coplanar. Didn't quite work. But that's easy enough to select with the C key. That becomes your selection brush. Just paint over that and right click to escape that operation. Now we have the selection there. I pressed the Ctrl+ button to increase the selection, duplicated that, and then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees in the Z axis. And again, with snapping on here, I'm going to click the green arrow and then move my mouse pointer over an existing vertex, and that will snap it to that location. Now we just need to merge all these vertices that are overlapping. So select everything and merge vertices by distance. And we've removed 85. Okay, now we're making progress. Good. The next part is quite simple. Just alt click these edge loops there and then right click to bridge edge loops. Voila, there we go. We're getting there. I undid that actually. I'm going to select individual origins. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. And that's why I selected individual origins, so it doesn't scale them in the y-axis. Make that a little bit bigger because I'm thinking this will now act as support loops. So with those selected, I'm going to press E and then S and just bring that in. So we have this nice ring of faces to help us really clamp down the shading and also the geometry as a whole. And we can bridge edge loops finally. Check face orientation again, make sure that's worked okay. Turn subdiv back on, go back to object mode, and that's looking really nice. Really pleased with that. Let's check our shading. Yep, that looks pretty good. It won't be perfect, it doesn't have to be. Now, if it's 99% there, that will do. So now you see I've moved over my attention to this other part here. And it's going to be the same thing, effectively, the same principle, minus the hole, of course. So just repeat your previous attempts, or process, not attempts. Repeat the same process, create an N-gon there with the F key, add a small insert to create support loops. Tidy some vertices up if you need to. This actually worked here. So I made a circle with the loop tools add-on, built into Blender by the way, so make sure you enable that. Switch back to medium point as the transform origins, or transform, whatever that thing is called, and loop tools again, space. That's a really cool little feature. It spaces out the vertices in a nice circle. And I added that there just to help support that shape there. Why not? And it tidies everything up quite nicely. It does look weird, but bear with. It's not looking too bad now. Let's have a think about how this is going to work. This is what we're after. We've got these edge loops that run along the outside, or just the inner side there, inside of that. So we just need to create another edge loop to support that, to really help clamp this. And I'm pressing the B key for boundary, or E for even, I think it is, or I think it's B, I can't remember now. And that just makes the edge loop kind of conform to the nearest edge loop. Let's bring these out by pressing GG to slide them. So again, manual tweaking. Excuse me. Not too much work here. So what I've just done is obviously selected that. I had a little think there, what I'm going to do there. I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to delete that now. Now that I have this edge loop here, I'm going to press F key to fill it and do an inset yet again. Be careful not to overlap them too much. So something like that is pretty good. Maybe space the vertices out just a touch so they're not so clumped up together. It's not precise exactly, but just generally spacing them out. Yeah, think about the edge flow as you're doing that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but that works really well. There's a slight shading glitch just there. You can see if we turn madcap, you can see, or barely see actually. Should we live with that? Must be because we haven't actually collapsed that polygon, have we, the end gone. So let's select that face there, right click, delete it, and I'm going to do grid fill instead. Let's see what that does. Simple blending looked okay, but maybe not. And that works really well. I think that will do. That does the job, right? Right, this is the jump cut because I had to do the same thing with the other gaps. So exactly the same thing, just do this, the same steps, the same kind of process really. Then you have something like this. Again, is all exactly the same. Just go in and create the insets, the n-gons with the insets, and then just tweak the vertices as necessary to get a very similar result as the first two that you did. So I'm really happy with that. That's the majority of the work done for the key. That was the hardest part, not only because I wanted it as one object. Okay, yes, it isn't perfect, but considering the size of the key and the imperfections of maybe being handmade or manufactured, it's within the tolerance of error, margin of error. So I think that's good to go. So let's think about the rest of the key now. So I'm going to add a cube, and I'm in object mode, by the way. This is not in edit mode. I'm going to add it just about there. We're going to create this little stub thing. It's not round, it's a cube, a flattened cube. So let's just tab into edit mode and scale down these vertices. Make sure you're in X-ray mode or wireframe mode. Let's bring these down just so it intersects. I probably need to go higher up actually. Add a loop cut down the middle with Ctrl R and right click and bring that up. Something like that. Maybe bring these down a little bit. Again, about halfway through the circle is what you're looking for. You can see there we have this fat cube now. Way too deep. We need to select everything in edit mode and press SY and scale it in the Y axis or the X depending on how you modeled it initially. So that's a good start. Let's think how we're going to do this. Tell you what, let's select these edges just at the bottom there, these corner ones, and go to the front view, press Ctrl B to bevel, scroll your mouse wheel and let's go with 3 segments for these corners. That looks okay. That works. Let's isolate that and select these two faces. We don't need these, they're hidden inside the top part of the ring key. Let's auto smooth that. Looks terrible. Yeah, wireframe. Sorry, not wireframe. Face orientation is fine. Let's turn wireframe back on. I'm going to select these edge loops now, just the outer sharp edges, and then press Ctrl B on those. Let's round them off, something like that. And you can see in the center, it's making a bit of a mess. So let's select those as well. Make sure it all nicely flows from left to right. That's looking pretty good. We still have some weird shading issues there because Blender's triangulated that to that top point there. So we need to fix that, and it's quite easy actually. Several ways to do this. I'm going to select that edge loop and just dissolve it for now with Ctrl Delete. So Alt click to select it, Ctrl Delete to delete it, and I'm going to select these two vertices and press the J key to join them. That will create an edge between those, and that will stop those triangular faces shooting upwards vertically. So that looks a lot better now. Now I've switched to the knife tool with K, A to lock the angle, and then C to cut through. You can see it's cut through from the front to the back. So just to repeat that, K for the knife tool, A to restrict the angle, and C to cut through. And click at the top there, right click, enter to commit the cut. Slightly weird there. So we can mitigate that. Let's select these vertices, S for scale, X, to lock it to the X axis and just bring those in. Something like that. And that should mitigate this shading error. Not error. Visual thing. We've still got that little gap there now, so we can tab back into edit mode, press Ctrl R, reapply that edge loop there, switch to the front view, X-ray or wireframe, and just shift that up into the key. Great. I think that's all that needs. I think that's pretty much done now. You can spend more time on that if you like. Try different things, different shapes, or make a key up of your own. Let's drag that into the Padlock key collection, and let's give it a name other than cube. I don't know what to call that, so I'm going to call it key stub. I have no idea what that means. Right, let's think about this part here. Let's bring our 3D cursor down. So we already had it in the center. Let's bring it down there under the View tab. And I'm going to use my add-on to add a cylinder and give it a vertex count of maybe 12. And the radius 0.07-ish. Might as well bring it down as well, the depth. There we go, done, finished. Ta-da! Oh, if it was that simple. Let's tab into edit mode in a second. And let's switch to face mode with 3 on the numpad. Sorry, not numpad, keypad. Nope. Number pad. Nope. The number's at the top of the keyboard. That's what I mean to say. Anyway, I'm going to isolate that. Select this face and Ctrl B to round it off nicely at the top there. 3 sections should be enough because we can just add a subdivision modifier to this as well. That's good enough. And whilst I'm here, I'm switching to the top view with 7 on the numpad, which I set correctly this time. Brilliant. Select these 2 vertices, press J to join them, and then every other vertex and join them. And that gives you some nice quads to top off the that part there. Shade smooth. Okay, that's fine. It will look a bit weird with the shading, but that's okay. That will fix itself soon. Let's concentrate on the bottom one now. Much shallower bevel angle here. So again, 3 segments. something like that. Was it 2 segments I put there? It was 2, sorry, 2, not 3. And I'm going to add an inset on the flat face at the bottom there. And we can extrude that part there, the little bit that comes out the bottom there. So let's select that face and press E to extrude. Select that edge loop and just create another bevel. And that's good. So that was 7 and the Control 7 on the numpad, and that flips the view. And again, I'm just going to join these vertices to create the quads to tidy that part up a little bit. So that's quite easy to do, right? Yeah, let's just a quick check again on face orientation. I often get caught out with that. So I got into the habit now of checking it quite frequently, because otherwise you end up wasting time trying to figure out why doesn't it work? Why does my texture look weird or my render look odd? Let's rename that top part to key ring 1. So now we've got key rod. I think I called that part there the cylinder key rod. There's our 3D cursor. Let's bring it down to roughly there and across to the side, because now we're going to look at the teeth part of the key, which looks like a flipped E actually. Who would have guessed that? I'm going to add a cube. Bring that down just a touch. Do the same in edit mode. So there we go. There's our teeth part. Obviously it's too deep. So let's bring that in on the Y-axis in edit mode so we don't mess up the scale. I'm going to switch to front view and wireframe mode. Let's bring that up so it matches the schematic in the background. Feel free to make this up as you go along now, because it's just a key teeth thing. So make any shape you like. Get creative. I'm just placing some loop cuts with Control R at the positions all of these teeth boundaries are. So with that done, let's create another one there vertically and another one finally for the second gap just at the bottom there. So with that done, we can start deleting things and refining the shape. Let's switch over to face mode with 3 on the keys at the top of your keyboard and delete these faces there to create the hole or the gap. Let's select these in the front view, bring them in. Select these faces and remove them. And we also need to get rid of these actually. Let's just get rid of those. Yeah, that's better. Guess what we're going to do next? 10 points to the first person who leaves a comment. Make that 1,000,000 points. Right, I'm going to isolate that and remove these back faces. Just to tidy. We're not going to see those. Let's get rid of them. And now switch to edge mode with number 2, and we can just press F to fill those in as we go along. And that works like that because I've got the F2 add-on enabled in my preferences, which is built into Blender. So what I'm doing now is selecting some edges we don't need. We don't need these edges and edge loops. I'm pressing GG to slide them and clamp them into the others and select all the vertices and merge vertices by distance. That removed 8 vertices in total. Let's add a subdivision modifier again. Now it becomes really organic looking. Yeah, that's fine. Let's turn the subdivision modifier off for a second and isolate that in the view. Now we can select all of the leading edges, including the corners. Really, don't miss them. Just keep going around, making sure you have all these edges selected. You won't believe how many times I do this and I end up missing edges. Even though they're right there, you just don't see them. And finally, these ones there. I've missed one at the top there already. There we go. And one there underneath, at the top. Theo at the top. No. Oh, I've missed it. Not to worry, I will spot it sooner or later. There it is. Ta-da! Now, we added a mean crease to those edges, so that means we can add a bevel modifier. This is the other way to do this, basically. Rather than adding a bevel, you can do it with a modifier, i.e. non-destructively. So I'm going to use the weight method, because we added a mean weight to those edges. Now you can start adding the amount and the segments and the profile and the shape, of course. Now here are all the options. I'm just going to go through them, but just to show you what's there more than anything else. And I'm going to hold down the Shift key as I click and drag in the amount field. That gives you a lot of finer control. And this is good, but notice the corners, the recesses, they kind of pinch into a point, which is horrible. You really don't want that there. You can change that by changing the meter to arc. That's much, much nicer. I don't know why that isn't a default, to be honest, because patch, or sharp, I should say, never really works perfectly in all scenarios. Arc does a much cleaner job. That's looking really nice and clean. Let's maybe change the shape to 0.5, make it look a little bit softer, because this is a very small object, and I've just done a complete U-turn on that. I should be a politician. Look at that, doing U-turns all the time. Right. So that's what we've got with that bevel modifier. I'm just switching it back to patch now to see how that works or doesn't. And see if arc is actually the best option. I think it is. So now we have that. And that looks pretty good. Let's go back to non-isolation mode. We can see that now the key is pretty much complete at this stage anyway. But wait, there's more. We still have under 10 minutes, I think, on this video. Sorry about the length, but I just wanted to make sure I go through this properly, the process. And that's probably intersecting a little bit too much. So I'm going to bring that back out. And I can see there. Bring it in just a touch. Maybe switch to the side view. Or not. You can see there. There's a line that shows you how far it's intersected. That'll do. Cool. Now, if you're really brave, you can make that into one piece as well. So I took all of the key parts and rotated them into this position. And you might be asking yourself, why did I do that? Well, look at the size of that hole and look at the size of the key. So we need to make this a bit more appropriate, I think. So with that, I'm thinking, what do I do? No, I don't want to make the whole thing fatter because that's not going to work. If you make this whole thing like that, that affects everything. So what I decided to do is, well, let's beef it up initially, actually. And then when I come to my senses in a minute. But yeah, I'm not going to do that because that's a terrible idea. So we need to isolate it at the front. So I'm going to put an edge loop just there with Control R. Maybe just past the teeth part there. And the reason I'm doing that, I'm going to isolate the front part with the back part. So now we can select. In fact, I'm going to do an edge split first there. And that will split the front part like this from the rear part. And the reason I need to do that is because I'm going to select these faces here. You watch in a second. I'm going to do S for scale and then Shift Y to lock it in the to not scale it in the Y-axis, just to make this a bit more beefy basically, and it fills the hole much nicer like that. Leave a bit of a gap so you can wiggle the key in. Now we have this. It looks like a bat or something, I don't know, something weird. I'm going to add a loop cut there because now we have a much larger gap. Now because we scaled this up, we've kind of messed up the bevel. So I'm going to go back and just make that into a sharp corner. And remove this with Control Delete. Select that edge loop and press Control B and reintroduce the bevel now. So we keep the shape nice and rounded. That's probably too much, but that's fine. Now we just plug this gap here. So select both of those and bridge edge loops with right click. Make sure you check face orientation. That will sometimes go wrong. So check that very quickly. Yeah, that's good. That's not too bad. Ish. So a bit more work to do yet. Let's add a subdivision modifier. Now we've got a bowling pin. I bet you didn't think that was going to happen. Right, let's select this edge loop and press Ctrl B. Add another bevel. Or you can use the previous method I showed you earlier with the teeth, where we use the mean crease and a bevel modifier instead of doing it like this. But either way is fine. So I'm effectively adding support loops with a shape of 1. It's very important, not 0.5, but a shape of 1. That's great. However, if you were to look at this from the side view, actually before we do that, let's just add one more just there. If we look at this from the side view, any second now. There we go. You can see, or hopefully you won't be able to see it much, but it's slightly rounded. It's not completely flat at the top or that midsection. So I'm going to add 2 loop cuts and then press SY now and bring them out to the outer edges of that cylinder shape and add the mean crease value or set the mean crease value to 1. And that basically means that now acts as a barrier, like a stake in the ground, a line in the ground, whatever you want to call it, where the subdivision modifier won't be affected or won't be applied or influenced past that point, basically. Bodyguards, there you go. Think of them as bodyguards. I just knocked the microphone. I'm so sorry if you heard that. Right, with that done, we need to adjust the teeth because they're not looking great now. Look a bit pathetic. So there's the hole we can see there through the X-ray. The gap within the padlock. Let's see if we can bring these down some more. If not, we'll just check that in a second. Okay, that looks okay. And does the box go through properly on all sides? Yep, just about. Let's maybe use 2 sections on the subdivision modifier. Yeah, let's go with 2. That looks pretty good. Happy with that. Now, for me, I think that's a much more interesting key than just a straight, cylinder. Right, so the final part is I then realized that if I was to put the key, inside or slightly outside like this, I want to just quickly borrow one of these shapes, one of these edge loops from the cylinder there. So in edit mode, I selected it, an edge loop, and Shift D, and then press P to separate it into its own object, and there it is. And we, of course, have the same modifiers applied to it. So we borrowed this from the other one, and I'm going to use that to start something in the padlock where the key will actually interact with. You won't see it, but it's something there. So when you render it or animate it, as I did in the intro, you might be able to see inside the lock. So it kind of made sense to put something there rather than a big empty void. So I'm going to use that as a basis for something. This is totally made up, by the way. It's not an actual lock. I have no idea. I didn't go and copy a real lock in the internals. I just wanted something there that looked interesting. And I put an inset there. I pressed E to extrude, S for scale. And the reason I did that is because we have that nub at the front there, you can see there. So that's about the right size for that little thing to fit into that tiny hole. Maybe a touch smaller. And if I bring it over there, you can see that's probably good enough. And with that done, let's just zoom in a little bit. We can press E to extrude and push that backwards. Not so far that it intersects the back of the padlock, of course. And let's auto smooth that. Select this loop cut and bevel it. Oops. Let's Control B. And I've still got a shape of 1, as you can see there. And that's fine for this. It's not really important. Just to give the illusion of, there's some mechanical parts. So with that edge loop selected, I'm going to press E to extrude, and then the Y-axis left and right, and bring that in. And do that again, and then scale it out. So E and S. Something like that. And then E again, Y. And bring that back. And I'm going to use vertex snapping again by pressing the Control key to invoke snapping. So there we go. Basically, we have this tiny little shape like this. And we're going to select these edges there and add a bevel. And the inside, of course, we need to bevel that a little bit as well. So if we switch our subdiv modifier back on now, it looks a bit more sensible now. The back part, not so much. So let's select that edge loop there. And I'm actually going to use a mean crease this time. There's no point in adding more geometry right at the back there. You're not going to see it. So let's try and keep that simple as we can. Let's switch back to the whole thing. Now you can see what I mean though. You've got something there that kind of makes sense for the key. Check our face orientations. That's looking fine. All good. And we're almost there. Brilliant. In fact, we are there. There we go. Thanks for watching, everyone. And I'll see you in the next one. In the meantime, if you did like the video, a like and subscribe would be hugely appreciated so you don't miss future videos. I'll let this play out and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.